This is a book of Psalms, chapter 104, verse 26, and it reads, There go the ships. There is that Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play therein. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, all praises, honor, and the glory shall go to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahweh Shai, Ba'asham, Makak, Kodash, Brakatham. Double honors shall go to apostles, elders, and bishops, the great millstone who continue to teach and to rule well. Shalom to the Akims, the great millstone, the like-minded camps and individuals who continue to teach as one body, who continue to be on the highways and byways, risking their lives for the greater good. And shalom to the sincere Akwads, who are continuously learning in silence, as the Holy Scriptures have commanded for you to do so. This is Azariah Gabar, representing the King is Coming channel, back at it with another lesson for edification purposes. All right, so I just read that scripture from King Dawadah, 104:26. Now read again. There go the ships. There is that Leviathan, whom thou hast made to play therein. So, that's going to be the lesson for today. Leviathan. All right? Because so much has been discussed about the swords of the Lord. Okay? Which will be, of course, those ICBM nuclear missiles. All right? You know, the 200,000 or the 200 million horses that's mentioned in the scriptures. And then you have the 20,000 chariots that's going to be brought over here to earth very soon, as discussed in the book of Psalms 68. All right? But Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai have another sword at his disposal. And that sword is his personal pet, Leviathan. Okay? So this sea creature is currently sitting deep, deep, deep underwater somewhere on the earth. But when that time comes for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai to rise up against mainly Esau, Edom, and the other heathen nations with his wrath, it's going to be threefold. All right? Like I mentioned, those ICBM nuclear missiles, those chariots with the concentrated fired laser beams, and then you're going to have this Godzilla-looking thing. Leviathan, all right? This is real talk. This is not a fairy tale. And here's more proof. Psalms 74:12, and it reads, For God is my King of old, working salvation in the midst of the earth. Verse 13, Thou didst divide the sea by thy strength, thou breakest the heads of the dragons in the waters. And I just mentioned at the beginning of this lesson that this Leviathan is in the waters. Verse 14, Thou breakest the heads of Leviathan in pieces, and gavest him to be meat to the people inhabiting the wilderness. Woo! All right. So, yeah, that's another illustration of the existence of Leviathan. And trust and believe. When this sea creature rises from the uttermost depths of the sea, when that time comes, when the Lord calls upon him, he's not going to be a zoo pet. People can just, pet. Oh, he's so cute. Oh, hell no. Quite the contrary. He's going to breathe that fire, and he's going to get the destroying as well. He's going to put his powers into effect. All right? Let's put it that way. And also, when we go to the book of Job 41, he mentions about Leviathan as well. And it reads, for Job 41:1, canst thou draw out Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which thou lettest down? Verse 2, canst thou put an hook upon or into his nose, or bore his jaw through with a thorn? Verse 3, will he make many supplications unto thee? Will he speak soft words unto thee? And I just mentioned that he's not going to be that nice, cuddly zoo pet. No. Verse 4, will he make a covenant with thee? Wilt thou take him for a servant forever? Verse 5, wilt thou play with him as with a bird? I just mentioned that as well. They're going to play with him. No. Or wilt thou bind him for thy maidens? Verse 6, shall the companions make a banquet of him? Shall they part him among the merchants? Verse 7, canst thou fill his skin with barbed irons, or his head with fish spears? Verse 8, lay thine hand upon him. Remember the battle. Do no more. Verse 9, behold, the hope of him is in vain. Shall not one be cast down even at the sight of him? In verse 10, none is so fierce that dare stir him up. Who then is able to stand before me? Woo! All right. So when we go to the New Language Translation, or New Living Translation, all right, regarding Job 41:1-10, and it reads, can you catch Leviathan with a hook, or put a noose around his jaw? Can you tie it with a rope through the nose, or pierce its jaw with a spike? Will it beg you for mercy, or implore you for pity? Will it agree to work for you, to be your slave for life? Can you make it a pet? And there you go again with that pet. I just mentioned that. Can you make it a pet like a bird, or give it to your little girls to play with? Will merchants try to buy it, to sell it in their shops? Will it hide, be hurt by spears, or its heads by a harpoon? If you lay a hand on it, will you certainly remember the battle that follows? You won't try that again. No, it is useless to try to capture it. The hunter who attempts it will be knocked down. And since no one dares to disturb it, who can then stand up to me? Woo! Okay? So you can't make that even more clearer. All right? This thing is a creature. All right? And I just mentioned it before, and I'll mention it again. It is not a play toy. It's not a pet. It's in existence to serve a specific purpose. And like I mentioned, that purpose is to destroy when that time comes. So then you got Isaiah 27:1, and it also mentions about Leviathan. And it reads, in that day the Lord with his sword and great and strong sword, and I just mentioned at the beginning of this lesson, he's one of several swords, shall punish Leviathan, the piercing serpent, even Leviathan, that crooked serpent, and he shall slay the dragon that is in the sea. Woo! Y'all heard? So, you 2/3, you better consider this other alternative that's going to come your way. And it's not going to be in the damn movie theaters near you. All right? Because let's face it, how'd you think that character Godzilla came into existence by those Ammonites or those Japanese? All right? It's from the scriptures. All right? So, I want to cue up a quick video to prove my point. But before I do so, fair use of the 1976 Copyright Act. For this video is strictly for education and edification purposes only. I'm not making a dime off of this video, you heard? So this video, it's kind of lengthy, so, I'm not going to play the whole thing for time constraint purposes, but it's called The True Story of Godzilla. All right? So, without further ado, hopefully I can get this video up and going. Oh, come on. Shut up.
Godzilla is a monster of many talents. He's a malevolent force of chaos, a goofy, good-natured hero, a destroyer, a protector, and a national treasure. But where did this giant green Goliath come from? How has he stayed relevant for over 60 years? And what does the future have in store for the king of the monsters? I'm Moose, and this is the true story of Godzilla. The Big G's origins can be traced back to 1945, when the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki left a jagged scar in the cultural consciousness of Japan. And as the nation began its miraculous post-war recovery, they coped with the unthinkable tragedy through art. Out of humanity's darkest moment, a king was born. Godzilla wasn't the first kaiju by a long shot. He was directly inspired by giant monsters that preceded him, like King Kong, and especially the Beast.
The Beast from 20,000 fathoms.
As well as the real-life Lucky Dragon incident, where a Japanese fishing ship was irradiated by fallout from a US hydrogen bomb test. Japanese studio Toho developed the movie under the codename Project G for Giant, although they didn't know exactly what form their titular terror would take. Early concepts ranged from a massive octopus to a monster with a mushroom cloud for a head, before finally settling on the iconic design inspired by dinosaurs and alligators, as well as a name derived from the Japanese words for gorilla, gorira, and whale, kudzira. Godzilla was nature's revenge for mankind's meddling with destructive...
All right, so I had to cut that video short, like I mentioned, but you heard what that guy said? He mentioned about man's meddling with nature, all right? And listen, let's be real. When that Titanic got struck and sunk back in that day, at that time, it wasn't no damn iceberg. More than likely, that was Leviathan that caused that damage. Y'all heard? So hopefully someone gets edified from this lesson today. And as always, all praises, honor, and the glory shall go to Yahweh, Ba'asham, Yahushai, Ba'asham, Makakodash, Bakatam, Kwam, Yasharala, Rise Israel. And as always, Lord's willing, on to the next video. Shalom.